I was a night security guard until the man on camera walked into my office. The first thing you learn in a place like this is the sound of silence. It's not empty. It's a symphony. There's the low baritone hum of the server banks in the sublevel, the whisper of the industrial-grade HVAC system breathing through the vents, the almost imperceptible buzz from the wall of monitors in front of me. I know a thing or two about rhythm, about finding the beat in the chaos. In Oakland, the beat was sirens and arguments and the bounce of a ball on cracked asphalt. Here, at the Aegis Data Repository, the beat was the slow, steady pulse of a sleeping giant. My name is Damien. Most folks know me from another life, one played out under bright lights with a clock ticking down. But careers end. The roar of the crowd fades, and you have to find a new rhythm. This was mine. 12-hour shifts watching over rows of gleaming black servers that held God knows what financial records, forgotten emails, the digital ghosts of a million lives. It was quiet. It was solitary. I liked it. It gave me time to think. The first 3 nights were a study in sterile normality. I'd do my rounds, the click of my maglight's button echoing like a gunshot in the cavernous hallways. I'd check the logs, drink my lukewarm coffee, and watch the 16 screens that painted a grayscale portrait of emptiness. Loading bays, long corridors, server farms, the empty front atrium. All silent. All still. It was on the 4th night that the symphony hit a wrong note. I was watching camera 14, aimed down the length of corridor 7B on the far side of the facility. It's a long, straight shot, like a concrete tunnel to nowhere. And deep in the frame, right at the edge of the infrared's reach, something flickered. I leaned in, my chair groaning in protest. It was a smudge, a patch of static that seemed to swim against the grain of the digital feed. I tapped the side of the monitor, an old habit. The image cleared. Nothing. I chalked it up to a power fluctuation, a dying pixel. But a knot of unease, cold and tight, settled in my gut. I faced down 7-footers in the paint. A little video glitch wasn't going to rattle me. The 5th night, it was back. This time, there was no mistaking it. On camera 11, which covered the West Wing server farm, the shape stood between 2 rows of humming machines. It was tall, impossibly thin, enshrouded in a darkness that seemed to drink the infrared light. It was just standing there, still, patient. I zoomed in, but the image pixelated into a mess of digital snow, the figure dissolving like sugar in water. I toggled the camera off and on. It was gone. My breath hitched. I got up and walked a lap around the security office, the linoleum cold beneath my sneakers. The air in the room had grown chilly, the kind of damp cold that gets into your bones. I checked the thermostat. It was set to a steady 72 degrees. Every night after that, he was closer. Night 6, camera 9, the East Wing atrium. He was standing by the dead ficus tree in the lobby, a silhouette against the moonlit glass. Night 7, camera 5, corridor 3A. He was halfway down the hall, closer to the central hub where my office was located. He never moved on camera. I could stare at the screen for an hour, and he'd be perfectly still. But if I looked away, even for a second, to check another monitor or take a sip of coffee, I'd look back, and he'd be on a new camera, yards closer, his unnerving stillness, a silent scream in the digital void. I started losing time. I'd glance at the clock, 2:17 a.m. I'd blink, my eyes drawn to a flicker on another screen, and when I looked back, it was 3:45 a.m. An hour and a half, gone, vanished into the hum of the servers. The feeling of being watched was no longer confined to the monitors. It was a physical pressure in the room with me. I felt it on the back of my neck, a cold draft in the sealed, climate-controlled office. By the 2nd week, I was a wreck. The calm, collected demeanor I'd built a career on was cracked, spiderwebbed with paranoia. I was the guy you wanted with the ball when the clock was ticking down, the one who didn't flinch. Now, I was jumping at the sound of the ice machine. Then came last night. It started the same. He was on camera 3, just outside the main corridor leading to the security hub. I could practically feel his presence through the screen. He was a void in human form, a tear in the fabric of the image. I refused to look away this time. I stared, my eyes burning, determined to catch him moving. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic, panicked rhythm that drowned out the building's steady hum. I don't know how long I stared. Time had ceased to have meaning. But then, something new happened. The camera feed from my own office, camera 1, top left of the main bank, flickered. That was impossible. It was a closed-circuit feed, hardwired directly to the monitor. My blood ran cold. On the screen, I saw myself. I was sitting in my chair, staring intently at the bank of monitors. My posture was rigid, my face a mask of terror. It was a perfect, Joel Surfree reflection of what I was doing, but it wasn't a reflection. It was a transmission. And then, on the screen, behind the image of me, the figure from the hallways began to resolve into existence. It wasn't just a smudge anymore. It was a man. His form was still indistinct, woven from static and shadow, but he was there, standing directly behind my chair in the image on the monitor. I didn't dare turn around. I couldn't. I was paralyzed, trapped between the reality of my empty office and the horrifying tableau playing out on camera 1. On the screen, the man of static lifted a hand, a long-fingered appendage that seemed to absorb the light around it. He placed it on the shoulder of the on-screen. Me. I felt it. A cold so profound, so absolute, it felt like a piece of the vacuum of space had been pressed against my skin. It wasn't the cold of ice. It was the cold of absence. Of nothing. I watched, mesmerized with horror, as the door to my office on the screen began to creep open. My door. The real one, the one 10 feet to my left, remained shut and locked. But on the monitor, the shadowy man walked through the ghost door and stepped in front of the on-screen me. He leaned in close, and for the first time I saw his face. It was a nightmare of forgotten potential, of chances not taken, of moments lost. It was every failure, every doubt, every fear I'd ever had given form. And beneath it all, distorted and hollowed out, were my own features. It was me, a version of me that had been left behind in the dark. Then, the real door to my office, the solid steel one, clicked open. The hum of the servers died. The whisper of the HVAC went silent. The only sound was the frantic pounding in my ears. The symphony was over. He stepped inside. The man from the camera was in my office. He didn't walk on the floor. He seemed to glide over it, the air itself warping around his form. The cold was overwhelming now, a physical presence that made my teeth ache. He drifted towards me, his static-filled eyes locked on mine. He didn't have to speak, I understood. This was the final second on the clock. This was the shot you don't come back from. He reached for me, and I closed my eyes. I don't know how long I was out. When I opened my eyes, the first thing I saw was the bank of monitors. The lights were on. The hum was back. I was sitting in my chair, the coffee on my desk now stone cold. Nothing seemed out of place, except for one thing. I looked at the monitor for camera 1, the one for the security office. And there, sitting in my chair, was the man of static and shadow. He was watching the screens with a patient, still intensity. I tried to stand up, to scream, to run, but I couldn't. I looked down at my hands. They were translucent, shimmering, woven from the same faint static as the figure on the screen. The cold wasn't on me anymore. It was in me. I looked back at the monitors. On camera 14 at the far end of corridor 7B, a flicker of movement caught my eye. A new figure, solid and real, was just beginning his rounds. I watched myself walk the halls, check the doors, completely unaware. And from my old chair, the thing wearing my face turned its head slowly, its hollow eyes looking directly into the lens of camera 1. It was watching me, and I, the ghost in the machine, could only watch back.